Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be watching this. I apologize that we didn't post a video last week. My wife and I had a bunch of stuff going on, and I didn't get a chance to actually even make the video. So that's why we haven't had a video in a week or two. But we're back at it today as we're going to continue studying the book of Genesis. So last video, we looked at Genesis chapter 8 and the flood subsiding, right? And Noah and his family are finally able to leave the ark. And if you remember, we said that they're on the ark for just a little bit over a year. So imagine that, right? You're on this boat. Now it's a big boat, but you're on this boat for about a year, right? As kids, we learned the 40 days, 40 nights thing, and that is true, but that's just how long it rained. That's not how long they were actually on the ark for. And so today we're picking up the narrative in chapter 9. We're picking up the narrative in chapter 9 today, and we're going to see the first covenant with the rainbow, as well as a few other things today. So let's dive into it, shall we? Genesis chapter 9, and I'm going to start obviously in verse 1. It reads, "And God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. The fear of you and the terror of you will be on every beast of the earth and on every bird of the sky, with everything that creeps on the ground and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand they are given. Every moving thing that is alive shall be food for you. I give it all to you as I gave the green plant. Only you should not eat flesh with its life, that is, its blood. Surely I will require your lifeblood. From every beast I will require it. And every man, from every man's brother, I will require the life of man. Whoever sheds man's blood, by his blood shall be shed. For in the image of God he made man. For you, be fruitful and multiply, populate the earth abundantly, and multiply it. I'll stop there. That was verse 7. I'll stop there for now. So Noah and his family, right? Noah and his wife, and then his three sons and their wives. So 8 people in total, right? They disembark from the ark, um, and God blesses Noah again. And we again see the idea or the command to fill the earth. It's the same command that's given to not excuse me, not Abraham, to Adam and Eve to fill the earth, to multiply and fill the earth. Now, again, fill the earth does not just mean have a bunch of kids. It means to literally fill the earth. They're not supposed to congregate in one area in the way that even we do today. And we'll see that when we get to the Tower of Babel. What happens when people congregate in large amounts of people congregate in one area? They're commanded to, yes, multiply, but also then spread out and fill the earth, just as Adam and Eve's descendants were supposed to. Interestingly enough, though, the command to have dominion over the earth is not given here like it was to Adam and Eve. And that very well may show that Satan now has dominion over the earth. Satan has control over the earth. Now, we've talked about that before, but I want to reiterate first off and foremost, God is in control of everything. God is in control of everything. He is allowing, yes, allowing Satan to be in control of the earth right now. He will one day take it back from him and set everything right again. But he had told Adam and Eve to have dominion over the earth and their descendants. Well, because of sin and the degradation of man, that dominion no longer truly exists. We willfully chose to give it up. And so that's why the command is left out at this point. Um, and then it talks about the animals being afraid of Adam and Eve. Now, again, we're talking about generalized here because people will be like, well, no, there are wild animals sometimes that don't like, the penguins in Antarctica. They don't have a problem with humans. You're right. Sometimes an animal does not. But as a generalized idea, wild animals have a fear of humans. Interestingly enough, the classification of cattle, that is domesticated animals, would not flee from humans, right? We have cats and dogs that generally don't flee from humans. Horses and cattle and sheep, things like that, they tend not to truly flee from humans. We're talking about wild animals here, and they do flee from humans. They do flee, a general sense, flee from humans. And God says that's what's going to happen. It's a stark difference from the previous 1600 years of history where animals and humans lived in harmony with each other. And humans still had dominion over animals, right? But they were not afraid of each other. That has changed now. With the as Adam or not, excuse me, not as Adam, as Noah gets off the ark. And then we see the first authorization by God to use animals as food. Now, I'm not saying that for the 1600 or so years previous, they weren't eating animals, but this is the first time in Scripture we see God give the okay to actually eat animals. And personally, I'm really glad he did. I love steak and stuff like that. So I'm happy that he did. But this is the first time we see God give the okay to eat animals. Um, and perhaps this is because this more rigorous world that Noah and his descendants were going to live in, that we currently live in, was going to need more protein, and the best source for protein is still meat. Perhaps um, it's because the earth was not yet ready to bear vegetation again. Remember, this flood has happened. Noah and his family have been on the ark for a year. And so as the waters continue to recede, it's still going to be a year, maybe two, before they can effectively plant crops, harvest crops. And you need to be able to eat in that time span. And so God said, yes, eat meat. But in that, we also see the gulf between man and animals. God did not obviously did not say you can eat humans. It is wrong because humans are not animals. You can say we're classified as mammals. I understand that. Yes, we have hair, we feed our young, we birth live young, all that kind of stuff, right? I understand that. But there is a distinct difference in creation from animals to humans. And I understand that in a scientific classification, we are classified in that way. In a biblical, godly classification, humans and animals are distinctly different. Distinctly different. It's said again here, down in verse 6, that man is made in the image of God. We'll talk about that in a moment. Animals are not. So we again see this distinction that is made between humans and animals. And God does not appear. In fact, he says, I give them all to you. So there's no restrictions on which animals um, they could eat. Though we know that eventually in Leviticus and Deuteronomy there would be, and then even eventually in the New Testament, that restriction would be removed. Now, I do understand that a kosher diet is actually one of the healthiest diets that you can eat. But God did not put a restriction on it. In fact, he says, every moving thing, I'm in verse 3, every moving thing that is alive shall be food for you. It's all the animals. They're all there to be food for Noah and his family. Um, so they were to eat this meat of these animals, but not the blood. Blood was reserved for sacrifice. Now, you can say, well, Pastor, doesn't that mean then that you shouldn't eat a rare steak, which is what I enjoy? No. What we're talking about here is consuming blood in which a lot of other religions do in a ritualistic sort of way. Um, you are not supposed to consume blood. A rare steak is fine, but to get a cup of blood or something like that, that is wrong because blood is supposed to be used for sacrifice. And God goes on to tell them in 5, 6, and 7 here that the blood of animals was to be used as a substitute for man. Again, and God laid this out from the beginning that the in order to have remission of sins, you have to have the shedding of blood. And so God is laying out the ground rules here. And the sacredness of man is again stressed. We are responsible to see justice and carry it out. We are responsible and made in the image of God. And so this is essentially just God laying down the basic human government. No more was mankind supposed to be lawless as before the flood. And the instruction is based on not on vengeance, but on justice. And while we don't see laws actually here, what we do see is God is laying the groundwork, the base for what human government should be based on. It will not be because people are sinners, but for the most part, human justice or human government should be based on justice, not on vengeance. And I mean that's a huge thing going on in our country today. Is what is vengeance? What is justice? What is right? What is all that kind of stuff? And the only real place to turn to find those answers is the Bible. And God ends this with his last command to multiply the earth. And we have done that. We've gone from 8 to well over 6 billion people. So we have multiplied and filled the earth. We have done that. We have not treated the earth well. We talk about that in our Revelation series that's also here on Facebook or YouTube. But we have filled the earth. We have. Verse 8, let's dive back into it, shall we? Verse 8. Then God said to Noah and to his sons with him, saying, Now behold, I myself do establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, the cattle, and every beast of the earth with you, of all that comes out of the ark, even every beast of the earth. I will establish my covenant with you, and all flesh shall never again be cut off by the water of the flood, neither shall there again be a flood to destroy the earth. God said, This is the sign of the covenant which I am making between me and you, and every living creature that is with you, for all successive generations. I set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. It shall come about when I bring a cloud over the earth, that the bow will be seen in the cloud. And I will remember my covenant, which is between me and you and every living creature of all flesh, and never again shall the water become a flood to destroy all flesh. When the bow is in the cloud, then I will look upon it to remember the everlasting covenant between God and every living creature of all flesh that is on the earth. And God said to Noah, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between me and all flesh that is on the earth. He says that same sentence or variation of it 6, 7 times throughout that, which should tell us, oh, this is important. God wants us to understand this is a promise that is being made between him and not just man, but all of creation, and it's held up by his end of the bargain, not by us. Though the previous commands, right, to be fruitful and multiply and eat meat and such, are part of the covenant, this is the first it's used here. This idea of a covenant. This is the first time it's actually used here. It shows that God's promise not to flood the earth again was and is not contingent on man, but on God. God makes this promise. There are promises made throughout Scripture that are a two-way promise, right? Israel, you keep this and I will do this. You don't do this and then I will do this. This is not one of those times. This is a moment where God says, Hear me and understand, I am God. I will not do this again. No matter how disgusting the world gets, I will not destroy it by water again. And that's very important because actually in the book of Revelation, we see he destroys it by fire. He does essentially the opposite of water in a lot of ways. Um, and the rainbow would have been impossible pre-flood because of the firmament and stuff like that. But now it's a constant reminder of the promise. And I don't know about you, but when I see a rainbow in the sky, I think it's beautiful. And it does remind me that God said, I will never destroy the earth with a flood again. Notice God does not say there will never be any floods. That's key because that has been a misunderstanding by some people who then use it to try to say, well, God's not real, or the Bible's wrong, or God's a liar. God never says there won't be floods again, nor does he say people will never die in a flood again. What he says is, I will not destroy all flesh with a worldwide flood again, and he has not done it. And as we mentioned already, God makes his covenant with the animals as well, showing that while they are not humans, they are not his most precious creation, he cares very deeply for all of his creation, including the animals. He cares very deeply for them. And it hurt him to do that to the animals as well. And as I mentioned once, but I mention it again, God is repeating himself, showing how important a truth this is. God is saying, put it on me. Put it on me. I am making this promise. No human. I am making this promise. And when I make a promise, it is sure. Let's keep going then. Verse 18 of chapter 9. Now the sons of Noah who came out of the ark were Shem and Ham, and Japheth and Ham. And Japheth, and Ham was the father of Canaan. These three were the sons of Noah, and from these the whole earth was populated. All genetics that make up humanity must have been present within the three sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And every single person is descended from one of those three and their wives. Now, not in this chapter, but eventually, we will talk about. It's called the Table of Nations, where it lists what nations came out of which son, and you'll actually be able to know based on your descendancy which son you are descendant, which son and his wife you're actually descended from. I think it's pretty cool to see. Um, we won't get in there yet. We're a little ways away from it, but we'll get there eventually. Promise. Um, and Ham's son Canaan is mentioned because he was the father of the Canaanites who inhabited the land promised to Abraham at the time Moses is editing things. We're going to see this a few more times throughout the book of Genesis, where um Moses, who is the one who is compiling Genesis, right? We talked about this, that Genesis has multiple authors, starting with God, quite frankly, in the first chapter, and then Adam, and then going on down through, we see these different authors, and Moses is the compiler and editor of these things to make them into a book. And he added something like that to say, for the people who are reading it, so that they would know. He's going to add places, especially we see when we get to Abraham. Moses will add the names of places that are around when he is compiling and writing, so that the people who are reading it will understand, oh, this is the area of the world that happened in, right? We know that the world is constantly changing. People are building, things are getting deconstructed, like all that kind of stuff. And so um, Moses is going to add those things, and that's what he adds here. We're going to stop there for today because we're going to jump into a section that's going to take us not a long time, but a little while to get through. I've been trying to keep these videos a little shorter. I do have one or two other things to say, not based on the Bible here, that I just want to put out there. If you watch our Sunday morning services, you'll know this, but maybe you don't. If you live in the New Milford, Great Bend, Halstead, Susquehanna County plus area of Pennsylvania, you'll know that there aren't a lot of churches that do a Sunday night service. That's not a bad thing or a good thing. It's just the way it is. We here at FBC are going to start doing one on Sunday night starting September 8th. It's going to start at 6 o'clock. It won't be, at least at this point, it won't be live streamed, so you'll have to actually come to the church to see it. We're going to do some music, some of the songs that I love or that my wife loves, that our congregation loves, that we don't really do on a Sunday morning. We'll do some of that stuff. And we're going to answer questions. And so if you've got a question you'd like answered, you can feel free to comment it below. If you want it answered in the next video, say that. If you want it answered on a Sunday night, say that. But I'd love to see you there. We have a great time. We'll have a great time, and we'll Lord willing, we'll all grow closer to God through it. So that's going to be starting September 8th at 6 o'clock. As always, though, if you have a comment, question, something like that, feel free to post it below, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. Like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. As we keep studying in Genesis, I hope that as we're walking through this, your understanding of Genesis has grown as mine has, as I've done the study to get it going, and that we've grown closer to God through this whole process. So God bless, guys. Have an incredible week, and I will see you guys, Lord willing, next Friday with our next video for Genesis.